The habits that hurt you usually do not look dangerous at first. They look harmless. They look familiar. They look comfortable. That is why they survive. But comfort can quietly become a cage when it keeps you away from the life you know you are capable of building. This video is about waking up before the habit wins another round. It is about looking at your routine with honesty and choosing to take back control. You may not be able to change everything today, but you can change one thing today. And one thing changed with intention can begin a chain reaction. A stronger morning can change your focus. A stronger focus can change your effort. A stronger effort can change your results. Your results can change the way you see yourself. That is the real goal. Not just to look better for a few days, but to become better in a way that lasts. This is for anyone in the United States, India, or anywhere else who wants a life built on discipline, resilience, and real personal growth. Breaking a bad habit starts the moment you stop defending it. That is the first truth. The habit does not stay because it is powerful. It stays because it is familiar. It stays because your mind knows the route. It knows the trigger. It knows the excuse. It knows the comfort that comes after the choice you keep repeating. So if you want to change your life, do not keep negotiating with what is hurting you. Stop making peace with the pattern. Look at it honestly. Name it clearly. Then decide that your future matters more than the temporary relief the habit gives you. That decision is not small. It is the beginning of everything. Because once you stop protecting the thing that weakens you, you finally become available to the life that strengthens you. That may sound simple, but simple truths are often the most powerful. A bad habit survives through secrecy, denial, and repetition. It dies through honesty, interruption, and repetition in a better direction. You are not trying to become a different person in one dramatic day. You are trying to become a stronger person through daily proof. Daily proof says, I can say no. I can stop. I can redirect. I can choose better again. The old pattern wants you to believe that failure is your nature. It is not. It is only a pattern you have practiced too long. Every pattern can be changed when you stop feeding it and start feeding something better. That is the work. It is real work. It can feel uncomfortable at first because bad habits often give fast comfort. But fast comfort is expensive. It costs time. It costs confidence. It costs peace. It costs the kind of self-respect that makes a person stand tall in their own life. If you have been feeling weak in this area, do not shame yourself. Shame keeps people stuck. Awareness sets them free. Look at your habit with clear eyes and say, this stops here. Not because you are angry at yourself, but because you are serious about your future. Serious people do not wait for the perfect feeling. They begin where they are, with what they have, and with the courage to keep going even when the first steps feel awkward. The goal is not perfection. The goal is interruption. Interrupt the cycle. Interrupt the excuse. Interrupt the thought that says, one more time will not matter. It matters. One more time matters. One more repetition matters. One more choice in the wrong direction builds another brick in the same wall. One more choice in the right direction starts removing that wall brick by brick. That is how change happens. That is how freedom begins. The fourth truth is that your self-talk is either helping you or harming you, even when you think it is private. The way you speak to yourself in the quiet moments becomes the way you carry yourself in the hard moments. If you keep calling yourself lazy, weak, behind, broken, or hopeless, your mind will start treating those labels like instructions. But if you begin to speak with honesty and strength, the mind starts learning a new language. Say, I am changing. Say, I am learning. Say, I can recover. Say, I am not having my worst day. Say, I can do better today. Those are not empty words if you back them with action. They become strong because they are true and because they are being practiced. Many people keep feeding a bad habit with self-hatred. They think being harsh will fix everything. Often it does the opposite. It makes the habit stronger because pain drives them back to comfort. A stronger approach is honest firmness. Be clear about the problem. Be serious about the change. But do not speak to yourself like you are a lost cause. You are not a lost cause. You are a person in training. You are a person who can build a better response, one day at a time. When your self-talk improves, your behavior improves. When your behavior improves, your confidence improves. That is because your mind starts seeing proof that you are not trapped. You are capable of correction. You are capable of consistency. You are capable of returning after a slip. That matters more than most people know. A person who can correct themselves without collapsing has already started becoming stronger than the habit that used to control them. So talk to yourself like someone worth building. Do not lie, but do not destroy. Tell the truth with strength. Tell the truth with hope. Tell the truth with direction. And then follow your own words with action. That is how a new inner voice is built. That is how self-trust becomes normal. That is how a bad habit begins to lose its power, because the mind no longer hears defeat every time it looks inward. It hears responsibility. It hears courage. It hears the sound of someone who is done betraying themselves. The fifth truth is that small wins matter more than dramatic promises. A bad habit often survives because the mind thinks change has to be huge to count. That is a trap. Change is usually built through small wins repeated long enough to become a new identity. Wake up when you said you would. Begin when you said you would. Stop when you said you would. Stay with the task a little longer than your old pattern expected. Those small wins create evidence. And evidence is powerful because it is hard to argue with. Your mind may doubt your words, but it cannot ignore repeated proof. Each small win says, I can follow through. Each small win says, I can resist. Each small win says, I can redirect. Each small win says, I can be trusted. That trust becomes the base of a new life. Many people wait for the perfect reset, the dramatic detox, the big Monday, the brand new month, the special mood. But waiting often becomes another habit that protects the old one. Start smaller. Start today. Drink water instead of reaching for the habit. Walk for 10 minutes. Close the app. Write the plan. Finish one useful task. These may not look dramatic, but they are exactly the kind of choices that weaken the old cycle. The habit you want to break does not disappear because you think about it differently for 1 hour. It loses power because you stop repeating it and start repeating something better. Every time you choose the better action, you are rehearsing your future. You are teaching your brain what normal should look like. And once the new normal begins to settle in, the old habit becomes less automatic. It still may appear, but it no longer rules. That is the point. Not to create a perfect life overnight, but to create enough evidence that your future is no longer controlled by the same old reflex. Small wins become momentum. Momentum becomes confidence. Confidence becomes freedom. And freedom is exactly what a strong person builds through quiet daily choices. The sixth truth is that discipline is not punishment. It is protection. A lot of people resist discipline because they think it is heavy, strict, or joyless. But real discipline is not there to rob you of life. It is there to protect you from the parts of life that keep robbing you. It protects your time from waste. It protects your mind from noise. It protects your body from neglect. It protects your future from the habits that keep stealing from it. When you understand discipline this way, it becomes easier to respect. You stop seeing it as a prison and start seeing it as a guardrail. A good guardrail does not stop the car from moving. It keeps it from falling off the road. That is what discipline does for your life. It keeps your energy from going everywhere. It keeps your choices from becoming random. It keeps your routine from collapsing under impulse. That is why the person who learns discipline can break bad habits faster than the person who keeps negotiating with comfort. Discipline gives your effort shape. It gives your days a backbone. It gives your habits a direction. If you want to break a bad pattern, you need some structure around your effort. You need a plan for the morning, a plan for the trigger, a plan for the moments when the urge gets loud. You do not need a complicated system. You need a clear one. Wake up. Check the trigger. Choose the alternative. Repeat. The more you practice discipline as protection, the less the bad habit feels like a personal weakness and the more it feels like a solved problem. That shift matters because it gives you hope. Not fake hope. Real hope backed by process. You can protect yourself from what used to control you. You can build a life with boundaries strong enough to keep your future safe. That is what discipline gives you when you stop resisting it and start using it. The seventh truth is that resilience is not only about surviving hard times. It is also about returning to the path after you drift. That is where many people get stuck. They think resilience means never falling. But no one lives that way. People slip. People get tired. People lose focus. People make the wrong choice. The question is whether you return. The strongest people return quickly. They do not let one bad day become a bad week. They do not let one weak moment become a weak identity. They notice the drift and come back. That return is a habit too. It is a habit that says, I am still responsible, even after I stumbled. I am still building, even after I paused. I am still in this, even after I messed up. That kind of thinking protects you from shame. Shame wants to tell you that one slip means you are fake. One slip does not mean that. It means you are human. But being human does not excuse giving up. It means you need a stronger return strategy. A person who learns to return becomes harder to break because they are no longer afraid of imperfection. They know how to recover. They know how to reset. They know how to continue. And because they know that, they do not panic when the habit resurfaces. They use the moment as a cue to restart. That restart is powerful. It teaches your mind that you are not at the mercy of your lowest moments. You have a way back. Every return is a vote for resilience. Every return weakens the power of the old cycle. Every return says, the habit is not in charge anymore. I am. That is a strong sentence. Live by it. Return fast. Return honestly. Return without drama. Return with purpose. The quicker you return, the less space the habit has to grow again. That is how resilience makes breaking bad habits possible. It does not pretend you will never slip. It makes sure the slip does not collapse. The eighth truth is that your identity follows your repetition. This is why one good choice matters more than people realize. A repeated choice becomes a repeated belief. A repeated belief becomes a repeated behavior. A repeated behavior becomes identity. So if you have been saying, I am not disciplined, but then you begin to prove otherwise, the sentence starts to lose power. If you have been saying, I always fail, but then you begin to return and keep your word, the sentence begins to crack. Identity is not only what you feel, it is what you practice. That means the person you become in the next 3 weeks, 3 months, and 3 years is being shaped by what you are repeating right now. That is both a warning and an opportunity. The warning is that bad repetition creates a bad identity. The opportunity is that better repetition creates a better one. If you want to break a bad habit, you need to remember that you are not just removing something. You are replacing something. A vacuum will pull old behavior back in if you leave it empty. So fill the space with a better pattern. Fill the space with a walk, a workout, a journal page, a clean start, a focused hour, a phone call, a prayer if that is your thing, a breath, a plan, a task finished well. The form matters less than the function. It must be something that supports the identity you want. That is how your new self gets built. Not in one grand leap, but in repeated evidence. Each repetition says, this is who I am now. This is what I do now. This is how I respond now. That is how a person becomes more reliable than their past. They stop being the person who only talks about change and become the person who repeats change until it becomes normal. That is the real work. It is quiet. It is daily. It is powerful. The ninth truth is that your triggers will keep returning unless you build a better response before the trigger arrives. Most people wait until the moment of pressure and then hope they can improvise their way out. But the better way is to prepare. Decide in advance what you will do when the urge shows up. If the habit appears at night, plan the night. If the habit appears when you are bored, plan the boredom. If the habit appears when you are stressed, plan the stress. Preparation turns a fight into a system. A system is easier to trust than a feeling. That is why the people who change their lives often have clear routines. They know what to do when their mind gets loud. They know what to do when their energy drops. They know what to do when the old habit knocks. They do not sit there and debate forever. They choose the next response. That choice is everything. Maybe your response is to stand up and walk away. Maybe it is to drink water and breathe. Maybe it is to call someone who keeps you grounded. Maybe it is to start the task you have been avoiding. Maybe it is to change rooms, change posture, change music, change environment, change pace. The exact tool is not as important as the fact that you have one ready. A ready response removes the mystery from the habit. It turns chaos into a sequence. And once something becomes a sequence, it becomes easier to interrupt. That is how the habit starts losing confidence. It realizes you are not helpless anymore. It realizes you have a plan. You are no longer the person who just reacts. You are becoming the person who responds with purpose. That is a huge upgrade. It makes your future less fragile. It makes your emotions less controlling. It makes your growth more stable. Build the response now, while the mind is calm, so you are not inventing one later in the middle of a difficult moment. The 10th truth is that patience is part of the battle. People want change fast because they are tired of the pain of the old pattern. That is understandable. But patience is what keeps the change alive long enough to matter. A bad habit does not disappear just because you got inspired one afternoon. It weakens when you keep choosing against it across many ordinary moments. That means you need patience with the process and patience with yourself. Not a lazy patience. A steady one. A patient person does not use time as an excuse. They use time as a tool. They know that what is repeated long enough becomes natural. They know that a new response may feel awkward today and normal later. They know that discomfort is not a sign that the change is fake. It is often a sign that the change is real and still developing. So stay with it. Keep showing up. Keep returning to the better habit. Keep letting your actions mature. The old habit may still whisper. That does not mean it is winning. It may still appear. That does not mean you are failing. It simply means the mind is adjusting to a new direction, and adjustment takes time. The person who stays patient does not quit because the first week was hard. They understand that the first week is not the whole journey. They understand that progress often hides in repetition. They understand that a stronger life is built slowly enough to last. That is why patience is not weakness. It is a form of endurance. It says, I can keep going long enough for the new habit to take root. I do not need instant proof to stay committed. I can trust the process while I keep working the process. That kind of patience protects you from self-sabotage. It stops you from quitting too early. It gives your new identity time to grow. And when it grows, it changes everything around it. The 11th truth is that your energy follows your focus. If your focus is scattered, your energy will feel weak. If your attention keeps jumping between the habit, the guilt, the excuses, the hope, the fear, and the frustration, you will feel mentally exhausted before the day is even over. That is why breaking a bad habit often begins with simplifying your focus. Stop making the habit the center of every thought. Give your mind a better target. Give your attention something clean to hold. Put a small goal in front of you and move toward it. A bad habit grows stronger when your focus keeps returning to it in a panic. But it weakens when your focus keeps returning to the next good action. Focus is not denial. It is a redirect. It says, yes, this habit is here, but I am not spending all day staring at it. I am turning toward the life I want. The more you direct your attention, the more your energy starts working for you instead of against you. That is why routines matter. They reduce the number of decisions your mind has to make. They create a path. They give your day some shape. And when your day has shape, the bad habit has less room to dominate it. You are not trying to think your way out of every bad pattern. You are trying to move your way into a better one. So give your energy a job. Give it a purpose. Give it a direction. Wake up and point it somewhere useful. Read, walk, clean, plan, work, build. The stronger the focus, the weaker the habit. The more your mind is occupied with meaningful progress, the less space there is for the old loop. That is how focus becomes a weapon against repetition. It turns your attention from a problem holder into a future builder. The 12th truth is that one of the fastest ways to weaken a bad habit is to make the better habit so easy to start that your mind has less room to argue. People often fail because they create an all-or-nothing standard that is too big for a tired day. Then when the day feels imperfect, they do nothing at all. That is how the old habit wins again. So shrink the start if you need to. Make it easy to begin. A 5-minute walk is better than no walk. 10 minutes of work is better than none. 1 page is better than 0. 1 glass of water is better than another round of the habit. 1 clean decision is better than another delay. The point is not to lower the standard forever. The point is to lower the barrier to entry so the habit of starting becomes easier than the habit of avoiding. Once you start, momentum can carry you further. Starting is often the hardest part because the mind is full of resistance. But once you are moving, resistance has less room to speak. That is why tiny beginnings matter. They give you a bridge over the wall of hesitation. They help you win the first battle, and the first battle is often the one that decides the whole day. Do not wait for a grand surge of motivation. Create a tiny entry point. Then repeat it. Then let it grow. This is how long-term change works in real life. People love dramatic success stories, but most of them were built through modest beginnings repeated faithfully. The habit becomes easier to keep when it becomes easier to start. So make starting easier. Make better behavior easier. Make the right thing simple enough that your tired self can still say yes. That is not a weakness. That is strategy. And strategy matters because it removes unnecessary friction from the path you are trying to walk. The 13th truth is that every time you win against the habit, even in a small way, you are writing a new story about yourself. That story matters because identity is not only a set of memories. It is a set of repeated conclusions. If your life has been full of broken promises, the mind may conclude that you are not dependable. If your life has been full of avoidance, the mind may conclude that you cannot handle discomfort. If your life has been full of drifting, the mind may conclude that you are not serious. But each small victory challenges those conclusions. It says, maybe that is not true anymore. Maybe I can be dependable. Maybe I can handle discomfort. Maybe I can be serious. Maybe I can change. That is a powerful shift because it creates room for a new identity to emerge. A new identity does not appear out of nowhere. It grows where the old conclusions are being questioned by evidence. The evidence is simple. I showed up. I stayed. I finished. I returned. I kept my word. Each of those moments becomes a piece of a stronger story. And once the story changes, life changes. People often think they need to wait until they feel different before they act differently. In reality, acting differently is what makes them feel different. The action creates the belief. Belief creates confidence. The confidence creates the next action. That cycle can work for your good if you let it. So do not overlook the tiny victories. They are not tiny at all. They are the building blocks of a new self-image. They are the moments that slowly teach your mind, I am not the person who always gives in. I am the person who can keep going. That belief, repeated enough, becomes one of the strongest habits you will ever build. It will help you move through old temptations with a steadier heart and a clearer mind. So keep going today. Keep your word. Keep your standards. Keep the small promise that proves you are serious about change. Do not wait for a perfect mood. Do not wait for a painless season. Do not wait for the old habit to disappear on its own. Step into the day with a clear decision and let that decision guide your next move. One better choice repeated long enough becomes a new normal. One new normal repeated long enough becomes a new identity. And one new identity can make the old failure cycle hard to survive again. You are not powerless. You are practicing. You are rebuilding. You are becoming harder to break every time you return to the better path. Keep the habit alive, and the life around you will begin to change in ways that feel solid, honest, and finally under your control. That is how your future learns to stop repeating old pain.